Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to look at the subreddit r/entitledparents, where people tell us their stories of crazy mums and dads who think they're entitled just because they have kids. If you're new around here, please hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax, and enjoy some Reddit stories. Entitled mum wants to skip the line, gets a lot more than she wanted. A few need to know details. It was hot. It was about 35 degrees Celsius, but it felt like 44. Important detail for later. By the way, 35 degrees Celsius is 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So I was standing in line at checkout at my local supermarket. I think in total, I had about 10 items. Some frozen goods, drinks, and snacks. I usually tend to take out one of the buds on my phone, so in case someone addresses me, I would hear it. At this time, the woman at the cash register was taking care of the payment of one client and there was one person in front of me. And then, suddenly, she appeared, the entitled mother in this story. Now honestly, she didn't look it. She didn't even give off a mean vibe or anything. Even the way she started talking to me was overall nice and polite. At first. Excuse me, do you mind if I skip ahead? I'm in a hurry. Now, in general, if someone politely asks me this and I don't have any urgent business of my own, I usually don't mind. This time, however, I didn't have that many groceries, so her delay would be at most a few minutes. While she was pushing a fully loaded shopping cart in front of her. So, if I would have let her skip, I'd probably still be in the store for another 10 to 20 minutes. So I politely decline and tell her I will hurry as much as I can. Of course, this was a great offense. I had not given this woman her entitlement. She blew up instantly, yelling and screaming at me that she was in a hurry and, I'm not kidding here, had to be home in time for her shows. Now, at this time, I would like to point out that during this rant, she only said she had to be home in time for shows, and that were very important to her. There was nothing else making this urgent for her. This is important a bit later. Now, while this woman was going off, the person at the cash register went into ignore mode and just started scanning my groceries, which I loaded into bags, while the entitled mother was going on about how I was garbage and they should ban me from the store. Now, this should have been the end of it. Just turn around and go home and forget this happened. But then, she said something that 1, made me almost want to off her, and 2, made this a postable story. While I was walking away, just about to put the earplug back in, she yells, "If you pass by my car, tell my son he's the reason he has to wait another half an hour for me." Now, I'm not an extremely smart person, but in this moment, my brain made some connections quickly. What I realized was this. Number 1, again, it was very hot outside. Number 2, this woman had been in the store for a while, judging by the amount of groceries. Number 3, the entire parking lot of the store had almost no shade. Number 4, it was about 2 PM, so the sun was just over its peak. I rush outside and start running past cars, scanning them for kids inside. Thankfully, one of the first cars I pass has a small child laying in the back seat. This kid is as pale as a ghost, sweating like crazy, and it looked like he was only half conscious. I run back inside, and to my utter astonishment, this woman is having a conversation with the cashier while she's checking out her groceries. I grab her by the shoulders, spin her around, and yell almost straight to her face that her kid is literally dying in your car. And if you don't do something right now, I'm smashing your windows and calling the cops. At first, she looked at me in complete confusion, probably never been spoken to like that before in her life. Then, the realization of what I told her sunk in, and she rushed outside. While she went outside, a man tapped me on the shoulder and asked what had happened. I explained the situation, actually leaving out the bit at the cash register, just saying I saw the kid in the car and knew that this woman was probably the owner. He went outside, and when I came outside, the entitled mother suddenly rushed me and got in my face, saying I was the reason she was in the store for so long and her son's current condition was my fault. Before I can even respond, the man that approached me earlier speaks up. Turns out this man was an off-duty cop and had been in the store for a while, and as such knew that the actual delay caused by me could not have caused this. He also said he had already called an ambulance for the kid and the cops for her. I don't know what happened to the entitled mother, but she completely crashed. She just sat down on the pavement and started shaking her head, not saying much except the occasional sob or "not my fault." As for the ending, everything turned out okay for most parties. I stayed a while to give a statement to the cops, and my contact info in case it went to court. The kid was okay afterwards, and since his mum got arrested, they called his dad, or another male family member, I didn't ask, to accompany him to hospital. As for the entitled mother, I'm assuming she is going to have to stand trial for child endangerment. Not sure if she'll get a fine or jail time. It's just disgusting if you knowingly put your child into a car when it's boiling outside, and it doesn't even have to be that warm because it can get hot really quick. Like you can be in a shopping centre for an hour and it's going to get increased by a lot of temperature, but it just goes to show that that show probably meant more to her than her actual kid, so she deserves to be put in jail. Entitled mum thinks her family is entitled to my balcony. So, my SO and I live in a high-rise downtown Chicago. The way our building is set up, only the corner units get balconies, and the rest just have windows you can open. These balconies are 100% private and a part of your unit. I pay for this, and it's great being able to go outside and not have another person sitting just to the left of me. Our neighbours, who were an elderly couple, moved out in April, and the unit has been bought by a family of 3. The kid is about 3 and so far has been pretty quiet, or at least we can't hear her through the walls. Anyway, last night I was coming in from the basement storage area with my dog and our small grill, because it finally is warm enough to cook outside and enjoy it. The mum was in the hall and asked where I was going with a grill, as it was a fire hazard inside, and I mentioned my balcony. Well, that's when she instantly begins her tirade about not being able to get to any of the public balconies on the floor. She had been trying all the corner doors and all were locked, mine included. Now, mind you, this is maybe the 3rd time I have met this woman. She has lived here for about 2 months now, and she has been trying to get into our apartment to use the balcony. Our door is always locked. It's locked the second one of us gets home and stays locked. I tell her that the only public balcony type space is the roof deck, and she yells at me, says in her contract she has a balcony she can use and demands to let her use mine. I just laughed at this point. My neighbour across the hall was coming home. He has another of the 4 balconies and stops to say hi amidst her yelling at me. She asks who he is, and he says her other neighbour across from me, and she goes into the same stuff with him. We both explain to her that no, she has no such thing in her contract or lease, and if she has an issue, go talk with the door staff and ask them or go to management. She got mad and went inside at that point, and my across the hall neighbour and I just laughed about it and talked about the new Zelda game coming out. You see, if you really wanted to use it, you'd probably just be friendly with your neighbour, you know? Talk to them a bit, maybe get friends with them, and then eventually they might actually let you use it. I think I finally found a way to combat entitled people. So, I literally just started learning American Sign Language. I know like 10 signs. Don't even know the alphabet yet, just some everyday words. I drove my sister to the dentist, so I could take her home afterwards, since she was going to be woozy. It wasn't going to be that long, so I opted to just wait in the waiting room until it was finished. After she got called in, I just started playing games on my phone. A while later, a kid of about 8 or 9, maybe 12, I'm horrible at guessing kids' ages, ran into the office ahead of his mum by about a minute. He makes a beeline for me and asks if he can play on my phone. I say, "Sorry, I promised my parents I would never let anyone use it, and I can't break that promise." He seems upset and asks, "Why?" I respond, "Well, it could get damaged or lost, and I just don't want to take the risk. Sorry." He stomps his feet with a "Nyah," and runs to his mum, who has just walked in. Mummy, he won't let me play with his phone," he shouts. She looks at me and walks up to me. "Excuse me, did you say he can't play with your phone?" Now, at this point, I know she's going to be a pain in the neck to deal with, so I decide to try something that will probably not work. I pretend I'm deaf and cannot read lips. I didn't think it would work since there were about 6 other people in the office and 2 receptionists who must have heard me speaking before. But I figure, what the heck? I sign, "I know a little sign language," while shaking my head. "What? What do you mean? No. And why aren't you talking?" "It's nice to meet you," I sign. "What are you doing? Are you threatening me?" she shrieks. I figured I should just give up and tell her to screw off, but one of the other people waiting comes up and takes her attention. "Ma'am, he's deaf. He's using sign language," the wonderful man says. Oh boy. The kid speaks up. "Nuh-uh, he was talking before." The man looks to the kid and says, "Watch, I'll prove it." At this point, I think I'm in trouble. The man turns to me and speaks as well as signs. "Are you deaf?" I'm hoping he's playing along and helping me out, so I sign yes. "See?" he says to the woman. You'd think this would convince her to back off, but no. She just homes in on the fact that I denied her kid my phone. "Well, then, ask him why the heck he doesn't let my kid use his phone." I turn to the guy as if asking him to interpret. He plays along and translates what she said. I sign back. "It's nice to meet you. Slowly, my hard of hearing phone is deaf." I learned the sign for phone on the spot. It's exactly what you think it is. He turns to the woman and says, "He said he promised his parents he'd never let anyone use his phone so it doesn't get damaged or lost." The kid goes ballistic. "But that's what he was saying before. He said it. I heard him." The mother seems to realize that her kid may not be being truthful. He was though, heh, and also realized she was bothering me for no good reason. "Hush, Timmy. I'm sorry he bothered you. Please accept my apologies," the woman says to me. Again, I turn to the interpreter. "She says she's sorry," he says and signs. I don't know how to sign "no worries" or "it's fine" or anything like that, and the only sign I can think of is fingerspell, which he translates as "it's no problem." She walks off to the counter with her kid, and I sign "thank you" to the man. He responds by saying and signing "no problem." I mimic his no problem sign just to make sure I get it right, and he nods and signs yes. That is literally the best way to deal with anyone, like the "I don't work here" ladies, the entitled parents, just any kind of person, just, "Oh yeah, I'm deaf," just pretend. Plus, it's also a very good language to learn because then you can speak to deaf people. Entitled mum gets what she deserves at the airport. My boyfriend and I were coming back from a lovely holiday in Indonesia, and we were waiting for a connecting flight from Singapore to Amsterdam. This is a 13-hour flight, and we were already exhausted and stupidly tired. In the waiting area, there were a lot of parents with children. Kids are always annoying on flights, but hey, what can you do? If I find it stressful and uncomfortable, kiddos must find it even worse, though at least they have legroom. So we decided to settle into a quieter waiting area before the gate opens. We're basically the only ones there. We were hoping to catch a few Z's on the flat surface before getting on the plane. And then a couple and their 2 daughters, aged about 3 and 7, come and sit almost beside us, which was inconsiderate, but whatever. Then the kids started getting cranky, fighting over the iPad, and eventually screaming their heads off. Dad is mentally checked out, ignoring everything, and Mum is getting just as upset as the kids, which never solves anything, promising them candy and to buy them another iPad when they get home. So no sleep for us. Eventually, we get sick of listening to this and head over to the gate to get in line about an hour before the flight. About 15 minutes before boarding, this family comes over to line up for the flight, but instead of getting in the massive line, they stand right at the front next to the line. I realise this lady thinks she is going to get to board first because she has kids. When they make the call for the parents travelling with infants, she proudly steps out in front of the parents with tiny babies. I'm sorry ma'am, but the early boarding is for parents of infants only. But I do have infants, look! No, an infant is classified as a child that is too young to walk. But my daughter is in a stroller. At this point, she yells at her 3-year-old daughter to get in the stroller, and when she refuses, she then tries to wrestle her into the stroller with one arm while talking to the flight attendant. Now, the kid is crying her head off, and the other kid starts crying, and then the very small baby in the pram behind her starts wailing. The mum of the crying infant is travelling alone with 3 other small children, and she is visibly upset. I felt so bad for her. Her kids, however, were at least well behaved and trying to help her soothe the baby. I'm sorry ma'am, but you'll have to go wait in line with everyone else. At this point, the line is like 200 people long. It's a big plane. She starts whimpering and stammering, and then yelling, "But I have kids! You can't do this to me! I'm a parent!" Nobody cares. There are lots of kids in line. She hangs around the flight attendant, yelling at her until she realizes she's not going to get her way. I should also note that her husband is on the phone, totally not paying attention or attending to their children in any way. They're still crying their heads off, so then she starts walking up the line, making a big show about how much she's struggling with her bags, asking every person if she could cut in front of them. My boyfriend was overjoyed to tell her no after she ruined his nap. Most people just outright ignore her and nobody lets her in. One older English lady even told her to screw off. I imagine she does this often on flights based on her confidence. With 2 young children, it's probably been a long time since she did have to wait in the line. I hope she now realizes that early boarding is for the benefit of the infant, not a reward for reproducing. I don't understand why people care about waiting for so long. It doesn't take long to board a flight, you can just sit and wait for a bit. The most I was in line the other day was probably about 10 minutes. Why can't you just wait 10 minutes? Hey, what's up everyone? I just want to really quickly note that I have another channel which I do Reddit videos on. I know it's a different type of style though, so it's more like short stories. If you've already heard of it, it's Fake Jake. It's in the description as my other Reddit channel. But I'm going to play a bit of a clip on screen right now of what kind of content you can expect. So you might like it, you might not, but please do give it a go because I upload daily on there as well. So 2 videos on here, 1 video on there, and then I've also got other channels. But yeah, thank you very much. I'll play some now. I wish I could have a gaming setup, but my family is poor. Haha. Jeez, that's kind of sad, honestly. Annoying orange. Galaxy dew hearts and farts. Haha. Garfield. Ha! Annoying orange. Frick your orange. You have sex with my friend's mom. Ah! Explain yourself. You don't mess with Waldo. You just don't mess with him. As soon as you find him, you go on to the next page. Do not mess with him. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.